everybody.
I think you turned it off, Rob. There you go. That's better.
Check 1, 2.
Testing. Is mine on?
You're right. I think it is. You might have the
Test.
Somebody turn.
Good evening. Hello. Thanks for coming, everybody. We can move on with the rest of our meeting here. Session, student representative comment.
Hi. Our SGA meeting was October 15th, and we talked about homecoming. The theme is Say Aloha to Homecoming. The SGA members spent this past Saturday, October 13th, putting together decorations for the dance. Sales for admission to the dance is October 16th to 18th for $25 in W108. October 19th is homecoming setup from 2 to 4 p.m. On October 20th, during the home football game, the homecoming court will make their appearance and be announced. The dance is from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. on October 20th. Students should see the SGA Canvas page to volunteer for October 18th, Forked River School's Book Fair Family Night, October 26th, Trick or Trail at Gilley Park, November 11th, the Veterans Day Ceremony, and January 12th, Lacey Ed Camp at Mill Pond. Thank you.
Riley Christian, could you come down here and stand by us? The Unsung Hero Award goes to someone who portrays hard work, positivity, involvement, and school spirit. The Student Government Association has chosen Riley Christian to receive this fantastic award because she not only meets these expectations, but exceeds them. To begin, Riley exhibits school spirit like no other student we have seen at Lacey Township High School. Whether it be at the Fall Pep Rally or Battle of the Classes, you can always catch Riley decked out in our school's colors, chanting our school's name. She is passionate about spreading school spirit throughout our school, and is so wonderful to see her excitement. During school, Riley works hard, achieving outstanding grades in several AP and honors classes. After school, Riley devotes her time playing for the varsity tennis team, varsity swim team, being involved in student government, Interact, ADA, and the EMS club, and exemplifying the 4 pillars of the National Honor Society with passion. She is a true Lacey Lion, and we are so happy to award her with this amazing accomplishment. Once again, congratulations to Riley Christian for achieving this October's Unsung Hero Award.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you very much. And on to the report of the superintendent.
Everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me now? Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you all for coming out tonight. And I wanted to welcome both Kelsey and Hannah again for serving as our student representatives. We really appreciate the reports, and we appreciate you being up here with us. I also want to extend a thank you to 2 of our students for providing beautiful artwork for both the board agenda and the superintendent's report. So Ava Turner is a 4th grade student at Forked River School. She designed the cover of the superintendent's report. And Ella Ring, also a 4th grade student at the Forked River School, designed the cover of tonight's agenda. So a round of applause to them. They did great work. And when I looked at it, I just had to laugh at that adorable lion sitting on top of the building there. She did such a nice job. So another highlight in the superintendent's report, and we didn't have these results in September, but one of the things that we stress often, very often, is summer reading. And our summer reading challenge was a huge success this past summer, and hopefully we'll be bringing these students to a board meeting in the future. But congratulations at Forked River School to Andrew Fastasia, Ryan King, Jasmine Esteves Aguilar and Shelby Troiano. Round of applause to them. At Lenoka Harbor School, Bradley Edgecombe, Justina Tuarto, Dylan Megan, and Alexander Riley. Congratulations to them. And next month, we'll announce our Cedar Creek winners. I know that Mrs. Donahue and Mrs. Renuska were still tallying those scores, and we'll announce our Cedar Creek Summer Reading Challenge winners next month. So congratulations, and we know how important summer reading is. Even though summer goes fast, it's still important to keep that going. I'm going to transition a little bit and direct your attention to page 3 of tonight's agenda. Specifically item number 5, which is a motion to initiate litigation to address the current and future loss of state aid. Coalition has formed with several school districts who are experiencing those losses, different losses, but losses nevertheless. Last week, Mr. DeGeorge and I met with the Finance Committee of the Board to discuss entering this coalition. And we decided, the full board decided, that it was the right thing to do. So like the other 171 school districts who face enormous state aid cuts, these cuts will have devastating effects on our students, our district, and our community. And we've decided collectively and collaboratively that we must make our voices heard. And so that is the motion on page 3. We are still awaiting information from the Commissioner of Education, Repollet, I should say, on where we are with our emergency aid application. We submitted that how long ago, Mr. DeGeorge?
August 31st.
August 31st. And so we've also reached out to Senator Connors on several occasions asking for his assistance in moving that process along, and we have yet to hear from him, but another measure that we're taking is to enter into this litigation to see how much further we can move in that process. So, did you have anything to add to that? No? Okay. All right. So we have several presentations tonight. In a few minutes, we're going to start with Mr. Brandis and our October Students of the Month. That will be followed by the Student Achievement Report that I will present, followed by Mr. DeGeorge's Part 2 Budget Boot Camp. So get comfortable. We have some presenting to do. Mr. Brandis, are you ready to present Students of the Month? Yes, I am.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Board, thank you for the opportunity for me to come up and present Students of the Month. But before I do, Hannah mentioned something about our unsung hero, Riley Christian, about her being a true Lacey Lion and really exceeds what it means to be a Lacey Lion. Kind of want to add that she's also perfect at being a Lacey Lion. She got a perfect 800 on her math SATs. So we certainly wanted to congratulate you and your family and friends. Congratulations. First for October's Senior of the Month, I'm going to invite Hannah Starner to come up and join me. Congratulations to Hannah. And congratulations to her family as well. Congratulations. And right now we're going to watch some of our highlights presented by our own WLTS station. Hello, I'm Greg Brandis, principal of Lacey Township High School, and we're here to celebrate October's Senior of the Month. First, I'd like to congratulate Hannah Starner. Congratulations. And here to celebrate her accomplishments is Jake Serrano.
Congratulations again on being Senior of the Month. How does it feel to be Senior of the Month?
I feel super honored and excited to be receiving this award.
What were you involved with throughout high school?
I played on the high school tennis and softball team. I've been president of my class for 4 years, and I'm also a member of NHS.
What teacher had the biggest impact on your high school success?
I would say Mr. Fritz. He's just always been there to help me with any issues that I've ever had, and he's a good ear for listening.
Congratulations, Hannah, on being named Student of the Month. I'm very proud of you. Hard work and dedication definitely pay off. Keep being yourself, and I know you'll be a success. Ich bin ganz stolz auf dich, und ich möchte gerne sehen, was dir die Zukunft bringt.
What qualities would you say helped you succeed throughout high school?
I think just my overall drive for success helped me the most.
What are you going to miss the most when you graduate?
Definitely seeing all my friends and like friendly faces from teachers in the hallway.
What are your plans after high school?
I want to go to college, but I'm in the middle of the application process, so I don't know exactly where yet.
Congratulations again. At this time, I'd also like to congratulate and welcome Brandon Paserchio, our senior of the month. Congratulations again. Congratulations to Brandon and his family as well. Congratulations. And at this time, we're going to watch his accomplishments and highlights. Hello, we're back here to celebrate October's Senior of the Month. Congratulations, Brandon Paserchia.
Thank you. No.
You're welcome. And here to celebrate his accomplishments is Ken Horn.
Congratulations again, Brandon, on being Senior of the Month.
Thank you. It's an honor.
First question, how does it feel to be Senior of the Month?
It's an astonishing achievement. I'm very happy that I got the award.
What were you involved in throughout high school?
Throughout high school, I was involved in many clubs and activities, including ADA, Interact, NHS, and I played sports like golf and hockey.
What teacher is the most influential for your success?
The most influential teacher for my success would definitely be Miss Sullivan, because she puts in time outside of the classroom and inside the classroom, and she really helps her students out.
Congratulations, Brandon, on being named Senior of the Month. I'm so very proud of you and all of your hard work, and I wish nothing but the best for you and all of your future successes.
What qualities would you say helped you succeed the most?
Qualities that I have that helped me succeed were definitely my hard work, my perseverance, and my never give up attitude.
What are you going to miss most after you graduate?
Definitely the atmosphere that Lacey Township High School provides.
And what are your plans after high school?
After high school, I plan to go to OCC for 2 years on the NJ Stars program and transfer to Rutgers. I aspire to be on Wall Street.
Congratulations again.
Congratulations again, and congratulations. Next, our final vocational senior of the month, Russell McDonald. You can join us down here. Congratulations to Russell and his family. At this time, we're going to watch Russell's highlights, accomplishments, and video. Hello, we're back to celebrate the Vocational Senior of the Month, Russell McDonald. Congratulations. And here to celebrate his accomplishments is Jack Carl.
Also, congratulations on being October Senior of the Month. How does it feel to have won this award?
Feels good. I'm happy I got it.
What clubs and activities were you involved in high school?
I was involved in vocational school and the volleyball team.
What teacher had the biggest impact on your high school career?
Definitely Coach Mayo and Miss Bullock.
Congratulations to October Senior of the Month, Russell McDonald, for winning Senior of the Month for October at Lacey High School. Couldn't be prouder of you, Russell. You're one heck of a volleyball player who committed to going to Penn State this summer to be involved with their volleyball camp. You're an outstanding student who has a clear vision of what you want to do in the future, not just now. And you have become one of the most leading and accomplished members of the volleyball program here at Lacey High School. So I couldn't be prouder of you. Congratulations and enjoy it.
What qualities made you successful inside high school?
A lot of patience and perseverance.
What are you going to miss most about Lacey Township High School?
Probably my friends.
And what are your plans going ahead in the future?
I'll be attending ATC starting the beginning of the summer.
Congratulations, Russell, on being October Senior of the Month.
right, so the students asked me if they had to listen to presentation, and I told them that they probably should get home and do their homework, so they went home to do their homework. All right, so every October, we present the Student Achievement Report. And Mr. Riggs, can I ask you to dim one of the lights there, because I think it'll be a little easier. Maybe, turn one back on. Yes, that'll be good, thank you. I think it'll just be a little easier to see the screen. And so for those of you in the back, I'm going to tell you right now that it's going to be a little challenging to see some of the numbers on the slides. I'll do my best to talk through them. But just so you know, this presentation will be available on our website starting tomorrow morning. And some of the charts, I'm going to talk you through the numbers, but then the next chart will make it a little bit clearer, so just bear with me, and I will explain as best I can. So, our student achievement presentation now has 4 years of data with the spring 2018 administration of the park. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk to you about the fact that we're not going to be saying the word park anymore because it is going to go away. But for right now, and for the purposes of the slides that you're about to see, we have 4 years of data. And so what happened in 2018? We know that students in grades 3 through 11 took the park in ELA. Students in grades 3 through 6 took the park in math. And in students in grades 7 through 11 took the park in 7th and 8th grade. And if students were enrolled in an Algebra 1 course, a Geometry course, or an Algebra 2 course, they took those park assessments. And the second part of that slide talks a little bit about what used to be called the New Jersey Ask Science and the NJBCT, the New Jersey Biology Competency Test. Those tests sunsetted last year and is no longer. So what happened in the spring is there was a pilot where or a field test, I should say, where students participated in the NJSLA, and I apologize for all of the acronyms. It seems to be a favorite part of the Department of Education. Stands for the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment for Science, and this happened in May 2018 for students in grades 5, 8, and 11. However, we do not have any data because that was a field test. And so when students take that test again in spring of 2019, that's when we'll begin to see data. Okay, so I alluded to this a little bit. What's new in statewide assessments? We have some changes, some amendments to the high school assessment component, and we have some changes to the language of the assessments, and we have some changes to the graduation assessment requirements. So what do they look like? Very hard to see, I know. I'm going to talk you through it. In the middle column are the current regulations, and then on the right-hand side are proposed amendments. I say proposed because we know that through the Department of Education and conversations that the Commissioner of Education is having, they're working towards proposing it, but right now, they're working towards adopting it. Right now, they're proposed. So the first column, the first topic, I should say, is the high school assessment component. So the current regulations, and let's see if I can point to it. Current regulations. Where are you, mouse? Yeah, that's not working, Mr. Lytle. Is it? There it is. Okay, that's where I am. It is hard to see. And I normally would use a laser, but it doesn't work on the board. The current regulations for high school assessment components is that students were required to take the park in ELA 9, 10, and 11 and the Algebra 1, the Algebra 1, the Geometry, and the Algebra 2 assessment. The new regulations propose that students are going to take the ELA assessment in grades 9 and 10 only, and whatever math course they're enrolled in grades 9 and 10. So it's either going to be Algebra 1 and Geometry, or Geometry and Algebra 2. So it's less testing, and we know, we've heard, and I know the Commissioner is really focused on the fact that we shouldn't be so focused on testing. The next topic are the graduation requirement assessment requirements, no change there. So all students must take and pass the ELA 10 and the Algebra 1 assessment, so no change there. The next topic is the alternate graduation assessment pathway. So for the longest time, there was a conversation that there were many ways that students could graduate. And for a while, the conversation was that the only way students could prove that they passed the assessment was through the portfolio appeals process. And there was a lot of conversation about that, and the commissioner decided to keep the menu of graduation assessment options, and that includes other end of course assessments such as geometry and algebra 2, and assessments such as the ACT, the SAT, the PSAT, the ASVAB, and the AccuPlacer. And all of this is added to the portfolio appeals process. And we're very happy to hear that because we know that by offering these alternatives gives students different pathways to meet the requirements for graduation. So that's really good news. As far as the other part goes, we're still waiting to hear what the commissioner's decision is. And as soon as that information is provided to us, we will update our website. Okay, so park is no more. In spring 2019, we're going to see changes to the name, the length, and time changes to statewide assessments. Now, I will say this. It's not going to be called park anymore, but we have been working on park-like questions, and we have been working on rigor for quite some time. There's going to be a departure from the name, but the test is going to look very, very much like the park. But I'm going to show you the changes in a minute. So the new test in ELA is going to be called the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment for ELA and the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment for Mathematics. Very simple acronym, NJ, SLA-ELA, and then M for the math. But the changes are really going to be seen in the reduction in a reduction in the length and time of the test. So just to give you a quick overview, you can see that in ELA, the units are going to be reduced from 3 units to 2 units, and the total time will go from 225 to 150 minutes. I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you. Again, these slides will be on our website, but as you can see, from left to right, a reduction in units and a reduction in time. That's for ELA. And here you have math. So again, you're going to see the reduction in the units and a reduction in the time spent for testing. All right, so that's looking ahead. But in order to talk about student achievement, we need to work backwards. So when we talk about student achievement and growth, I mentioned that we're looking at a 4-year comparison of student achievement data based on park performance. And we are talking specifically about these park performance levels. So 5 levels. Level 1 and 2 is what we don't want to see. Level 3, 4, and 5 is what we do want to see. Specifically, we want to see scores in the level 4, level 5 range. So this is where the chart is going to get a little hard to read, so just bear with me. The next one's going to be a little clearer. But this is a chart on the left-hand side that highlights specifically all of our grades that are taking the park. So on this side here tells us the grades, so it goes grade 3, 4, 5, all the way down to grade 11. Those are the grades that are tested. So these 2 columns are the columns that we're very interested in because we're talking about the students who are meeting and exceeding. These are the highest target levels that I just showed you in park. And so these arrows that I'm going to show you here indicate that we're making progress. And the next chart is going to show it a little bit clearer. But the top row here is moving from 2014 to 2018. So we're showing progress in third grade. We're showing progress in fourth grade, moving from 52 to 55%. We are showing progress in fifth grade, and the reason why there's a circle around that is we've shown growth every year. We've shown growth in sixth grade, significant growth in grade 7, significant growth in grade 8, some growth in grade 9, significant growth in grade 10, and significant growth in grade 11. So let me show that to you a little clearer. Everybody can see a bar graph clearer than those numbers. And really what we're focused on here, the light bar graph to the far left is 2014-15 data in grade 3, and then our latest data in 2018 is the darkest bar graph on the right. And so what you can see is that we're showing growth. We're showing growth in fifth grade. Here we're holding steady in fourth grade. So what does that tell us? It tells us that's an area of focus for us. We are showing growth in grade 6. You see the difference between 2014, this mouse isn't cooperating, and 2018. Here we're seeing significant growth in grade 7 and growth in grade 8. So that trend tells us that we're making progress, but we still have some work to do in ELA. Let's take a look at grades 9 through 11. Showing growth in grade 10. Experienced a dip here in grade 9. Grade 11, we're holding steady. And when we look at all grades, we're showing growth. All right, let's take a look at math. Again, this is the graph that's pretty hard to read, but when you see the next chart, we're really impressed with what's going on in mathematics. And so, what you're going to see is that in these columns, again, we are showing growth clear across the board. So I'm going to go through this quickly, because what you're going to see is that every single one of our years are charted. And where I've provided a spin is where we're showing significant growth. Significant growth there in grade 8. Significant growth in Algebra 1. Significant growth in Algebra 1 high school. The one above it was Algebra 1 middle school. Significant growth in geometry at the middle school. Geometry at the middle school, geometry at the high school, and in Algebra 2. But let's take a look at our bar graph. So here we have grade 3 is to the far left, right here. Grade 4, 5, 6, 7, grade 8, Algebra 1 at the middle school, geometry at the middle school. So we're seeing growth clear across the board. This is particularly impressive, as is geometry. Let's take a look at the high school. Far left is Algebra 1. Algebra 1 at the high school, followed by geometry, Algebra 1, and then all grades. So we're seeing a very nice trend. So some might ask, so what do we attribute that to? So as you know, or perhaps you don't know, we have implemented a new ELA program at the elementary school. It's actually actually not new anymore. We started that in 2011. And the same goes for math. We've implemented Envision 2.0, and I believe that with the alignment of our curriculum to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards and the new curriculum, we are starting to see an excellent trend, and I fully anticipate that that trend will continue. Questions so far? Good? All right. All right, so as I... Question.
Can you also note, I'm curious to know in the areas that stayed the same or decreased, if there was any employee turnover ratio in those areas?
There's a possibility, but that's data that I'd have to check and go back. I can certainly take a look at that and bring it back at a later date. And I can also add it to the slide when we update it, post it on our website.
Thank you.
But that's a great question.
Thank you.
Great question. All right, any other questions? Good? All right. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that although the park assessment is an important assessment, it's not the only assessment. A little bit later, I'm going to be talking about NWEA and MAP assessments that we've been using for quite some time. But as far as our local assessments go, there are many, and this list is not exhaustive. We do administer the NWEA in reading, language usage, and math. For our elementary students, we administer the DRA, and that's an assessment that helps our teachers determine reading level, accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. It's a very, very important assessment and one that we rely on greatly. The San Diego Quick Reading Assessment measures students' ability to recognize words accurately in and out of context. And so we know that back when the PARC test was introduced, there was this emphasis on comprehension and informational text. And this is another assessment that we use to help us with that. Oral fluency benchmarks simply measure students' oral fluency. It's self-explanatory. We have been spending a lot of time on phonological assessments, one of those being SIPS. Another acronym stands for Systematic Instruction in Phoneme Awareness, Phonics and Sight Words. It's an intervention that teaches decoding in order to develop reading fluency and comprehension. We also administer concepts about print, and this assesses emergent literacy concepts about print. I talked a little bit about student portfolios as being part of that graduation requirement and part of PARC, but we use student portfolios every day in our classrooms to help us assess how well our students are or are not learning. Performance-based writing assessments is something that is used in all of our ELA classrooms. I talked a little bit about Envision Math. So Envision in and of itself has diagnostic tools, some placement tests, and some benchmark assessments. And ReadyGen, our literacy program in K through 5, also has computer-based performance and end-of-unit assessments that we rely on greatly. And finally, teacher-developed assessments, quizzes, pop quizzes, tests, midterms, and finals. Again, the list is not exhaustive, but is an example of how else we measure student achievement. PARC is one day. It's one snapshot. And I'm going to talk about NWEA in a minute, but that also is one snapshot, one day of testing. And so we have to consider multiple measures of assessment when we're building that picture of how a student is doing, how a teacher is doing in the classroom, and how a district is doing as a whole. All right, let's transition to NWEA. So, NWEA has a test called the MAP. Stands for Measures of Academic Progress. So, what are they exactly? Let me begin by saying that we administer MAP tests in grades K through 9. We recently added grade 9 to the list of MAP tests, And in some cases, we're administering the MAP test 3 times a year, always in the fall and always in the spring, sometimes in the winter, depending on grade level. Why do we do that? Is so that we can measure growth. So how is the student doing in the fall? And how is that student doing in the spring as compared to how he or she was doing in the fall? What's great about MAP tests and why we love it so much, and we are not alone in this endeavor, it's a very personalized assessment experience for the student because it adapts to each student's learning level. So it's very intuitive, and when a student is answering questions correctly, the test goes on. When students start to get to that point where they're getting questions wrong, the test recognizes that and eventually will stop, and that's what we mean by intuitive. Enables the teachers to quickly and reliably assess every student's learning and helps determine growth, whether or not it is happening, and most importantly, whether a student is on above or below grade level. The MAP tests provide us a plethora of information, and that's what that last bullet talks about. So far, so good? Questions? Okay. And so we know that when a student takes the PARCC, they're assigned a level. And with the old New Jersey Ask, there was a raw score that students got. So when we talk about the MAP test, what type of score does a student receive? And quite simply, it's a RIT score. I'll tell you a little bit about what a RIT stands for, but it's a score that indicates a student's instructional level on the MAP. And what's great about the RIT score is that it's consistent, and it's consistent just like a ruler. An inch is always an inch, a RIT is always a RIT. So for example, in that last bullet there, a student who grows from 165 to 170 shows the same amount of instructional growth as that student who goes from 280 to 285. Bottom line, it's 5 RIT points of growth. And I know that's a lot of information, and it's a different way of measuring student achievement, but let me see if I can shed a little bit more light. Oh, sorry, I removed actually that slide. But there is another slide when I post this to the website that talks a little bit about what the RIT is and how teachers use it to measure growth in the classroom. So let's take a look at some MAP data. So on the left-hand side where we have the column that says beginning of the year normative data, the normative data is provided to us, and it's from 2015. It's updated regularly by NWEA, but it's based on K through 11 grade level samples. And each sample is comprised of about 72,000 to 153,000 student test records from approximately 1,000 schools. So that's a lot of data. And these were drawn from approximately 10.2 million students across the U.S. And that is to come up with that normative data. What are our students being compared to? So what you can see here is that when our students took the reading assessment, the reading map, right out of the gate, our students are showing that they're above average than normative data. But the real important information comes in this final column here when we look at how they performed in the spring. And so we're seeing significant gains, and we're seeing that our students are above average as compared to the end of the year normative data. This is in reading, grades K through 2. And now let's take a look at reading grades 3 through 9. Again, we're seeing gains as compared to the normative data. And then when we take a look at reading in the spring, our students are experiencing growth. And the one area where we did not was here in the fall, but we saw it here in the spring. And I'm going to submit that that's more important data right there, because that's the growth model. All right, so now let's take a look at language usage. You can see that we've shown growth straight through grades 3 through 9. And then in the spring, we've shown growth in grades 3 through 9. So very, very important data, very meaningful data, and this is how we're using data to drive instruction. Let's take a look at math. So here's math, grades K through 2, showing growth in the fall, or a differential, I should say, and certainly showing growth as compared to spring. So again, fall to spring. Grades 3 through 9, we're above the normative data, but more importantly, we're showing growth clear across the board, grades 3 through 9. So I cannot emphasize enough how important our MAP tests are to us, and I anticipate that we're going to be using the MAP data and the MAP test for quite some time. Questions before we shift gears? Good? All right. Let's take a look at SATs. So, class of 2018, 172 total scores, right here. And we're comparing our scores to the state and national mean data from 2017. Why? Because we don't have access to the data yet from 2018. When we do, this slide will be updated. But let's take a look. When we compare our total district average to the state average and the national average, we're above. That's good news for us. When we take a look at our reading SAT, again, we're above average. Also good news. And in math, also above average. Now again, this is 2017 data. We don't have 2018 yet. We will update that slide when we do. Questions? All right, PSAT. One thing we're really, really proud of at Lacey Township High School, and I know that Mr. Brandes can speak to this as well, is that every single student in grade 10 and grade 11 takes the PSAT. Why is that important? Because it provides students with the opportunity to experience the PSAT, which is very much like the SAT. And it also tells us a lot. So, the ERW in the chart there stands for evidence-based reading and writing, and the BM stands for benchmark. So what we're seeing is that our 10th graders who took the PSAT in 2017, 65% of them met the benchmark in reading, and 30% of them met the benchmark in math. Is that a fantastic number? It could be higher. It absolutely could be higher. But keep in mind, every single 10th grader takes the PSAT, and what a phenomenal experience that is as a precursor or a pre-experience to the SAT. In 11th grade, 57% of our students are meeting the benchmark for reading, and 31% are meeting the benchmark for math. So like the MAP test and like the PARCC, it's just another indicator of information that tells us a lot. Questions? Good. Okay. All right, let's talk about AP. So we've been, eventually, some of the years are going to start to fall off of this chart as we add years to it. But a couple of things must jump out at you by looking at this chart. And that is that when you look at what was going on in 2013, the number of AP students, or the number of students who have been taking AP courses has increased dramatically. We do see a dip, or a change, or a decrease, but in talking to Mr. Brandes and the district supervisors and the assistant principals, one thing that we might attribute that to is the fact that in addition to offering AP courses to our high school students, we're also offering STEM Academy Humanities Leadership Academy, and College Academy, or what we also call dual enrollment. And some might say, well, why would we do that, and why would we remove or put roadblocks in the way of students taking AP, and they're not those things. They're not roadblocks. They're different pathways for students to experience rigor. And when we talk about college and career readiness, we're talking about rigor. Because if we're not exposing students to rigor in high school, when we get to college, that rigor will be that much more challenging. And students will be less exposed to that rigor if they're not participating in these different types of pathways. So that's this column here. This column is also very important. This is the percent of total AP students with scores of 3 or better. And as you can see, we experienced something really great in 2014, and we started to depart from that a bit, and we experienced a decrease in 2018. What does that tell us? It tells us that we need to focus a little bit more on the content and ask some questions about why is it that students aren't earning a 3, 4, or a 5. But again, in those conversations, I will say this, and this is something that is lost very often on people who just focus on test scores, and that is that being exposed to the rigor of an AP class is sometimes more important than the score on those exams. And if a student is deterred from taking an AP class because they're afraid of getting a 1 or a 2, I think every high school teacher and every high school administrator will agree with me that sometimes that rigor is more important than the score on that exam. I'm not saying that the exam is not important. It is. But it isn't and should not be the only focus. And that's the point I wanted to make there. Questions? I'm almost done, I promise. All right, let's take a look at college acceptance. This is a very important chart because it tells us a lot about where our students are going beyond Lacey Township High School. And so we've just recently added our data here for 2018, and we see that 37% of our students are going on to a 4-year college, 43% of them are going on to a 2-year college, 1% trade technical school, 3% are going on to the military, and 15% are going on to the workforce. And so what we can see is that 84% of our graduates have entered one of these options here other than the workforce. And when we talk about college and career readiness, that's an important phrase because it's college and career readiness. And so these students who are entering the workforce, we have the same responsibility to prepare them for the workforce as we do a responsibility to prepare our students for college as well. And so our trend seems to be holding steady. Later on, I have a slide for you that's going to illuminate or illustrate the different types of colleges and universities that our high school students are going into. Oh, and that's actually the next slide. Here we go. So it's a great list. I'll let you take a look at that. It's a great list, and I anticipate that the list will continue to grow. The list is not exhaustive. I probably would have had to have added about 3 more slides to get them all on there, but it's a snapshot, and that's really good news. All right, so shifting gears again, I alluded to earlier some information about our AP scores and perhaps giving some theories as to why we might be seeing a decrease in AP scores. And I mentioned College Academy. And so this cohort right here is our first cohort that is going to graduate in June of 2019. This will be the first cohort that will graduate not only with a Lacey Township High School diploma, but with an associate's degree from Ocean County College. These students are right now enrolled in phys ed class here, health and phys ed here at the high school, but they're also participating in English, math, and a sociology class through OCC, here at the high school, and they're taking environmental science at OCC. So they're being transported to take those classes at Ocean County College. I'm going to submit that that's just a phenomenal experience for them. And 23 students are doing that right now. Then in the spring, they will continue to participate in health and phys ed, and they will take at Lacey Township High School English, survey of math, and psychology. And off campus at OCC, they'll be taking a humanities elective and a general elective. And then in summer, you can see that health and phys ed will continue, and they'll be taking a general elective class at OCC and a humanities class at OCC. So that's our senior cohort. And we also have a junior cohort, and there are 15 students enrolled in this program. So those are good numbers, and we're following them very closely. In fact, a couple of the board members and I were talking about how we might be able to meet with those students and those parents to talk about those experiences so that, first of all, we can celebrate what it is that they're doing, but also be able to provide some information to future students who might be interested in the program. So that's all very good news. And some people might say, or they ask, well, why? Why would students participate in this college, this concept of college academy? As I said, provide students a jump on college education, gives them that experience. Students enrolled in the program receive credits for both the high school and the college. And students who complete 64 credits will receive that associate's degree. And when you think about the financial savings for parents, it's immense. And our classes are taught by our Lacey Township High School students, so teachers. So our students know our teachers, are comfortable with their teachers, and they're getting that dual experience. So I can't say enough great things about the College Academy. And so I'm going to end with this. We are at the end. There are lots of things to celebrate in the Lacey Township School District. Student achievement is one of them. And again, this list is certainly not exhaustive, but what is going on in the elementary schools that we're really proud of, or that we call our points of pride. Right now, the Forked River School is implementing an ELA intervention pilot. And I know Mr. Fiedler really wanted to be here, but I'm pretty sure Ms. Chalina is here. Is she here? No? Okay. I know they wanted to be here, and Mr. Fiedler emailed me earlier saying that he really wanted me to illustrate this program because it is a pilot for us, and this is a pilot program that is really focused on helping our diverse learners by using the programs that you see listed here. We've spent a lot of time training our teachers on these programs, the Orton Gillingham, the Read 180, the SIPs that I mentioned earlier, Fast Forward, System 44, and Moby Max. Again, the list is not exhaustive, but we are really looking forward to seeing what kind of data we get at the end of this pilot. And if the data is phenomenal, we certainly will expand that to our other elementary schools. Talking a little bit in our second bullet about Lenoka Harbor School. On October 23rd, Lenoka Harbor School achieved the Bronze Sustainable Jersey for Schools certification. They've been working so very, very hard. I mentioned this last month at the board meeting, but Cedar Creek, it's worth mentioning again, Cedar Creek was awarded $9,000 from PepsiCo for their participation in the Recycle Rally Challenge, and their next goal is to get that $50,000. And knowing Mrs. Reneska and Mrs. Donahue, I have no doubt that they will achieve that. And finally, Mill Pond School is implementing a new collections literacy program that I know Mrs. Nemick and Mr. O'Neill are very, very proud of. And I know that we're going to see the changes, dramatic changes in our literacy scores in the future. And finally, in grades 7 through 12, middle school is implementing for the first time an ELA honors program for our students. So I know Mr. King is really excited about that. Mr. King's also running a special class program, very much like the pilot that Forked River School is running, and implementing for the first time a Junior National Honor Society, which is fantastic. And at the high school, we just talked about this in a curriculum meeting, the Mu Alpha Theta, the National Mathematics Honor Society is new. Mr. Brandis just sent me a memo on that, on starting a new chapter. AP World History, open to freshmen for the first time in the history of Lacey Township High School. Prior to this, freshmen did not experience AP classes, and so now they are. And finally, also Leadership Humanities, open to freshmen for the first time. Again, the list is not exhaustive, it's just a snapshot of some great things that we have going on. And that concludes the student achievement presentation. So this will be posted on our website. I will update information as it becomes available to us. Any questions before I shift gears to Mr. DeGeorge? Questions? Okay.
Shut my phone.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's no accident that a discussion on budget follows a discussion on student achievement, because in our district, budgets are based on supporting student achievement. In the last couple of slides, you heard Dr. Clark talk about several of the new tools that this Board of Education has approved in this 2018-2019 budget to help push student achievement even further. So welcome to part 2 of our annual budget training camp. For those who were here, is this not working? Okay, cool, got it. All right, so those who are here for part 1 know that we agreed, right, not to go through the slide deck if you promised to go through the slide deck on your own. So just a quick review of part 1, but I know you could do this on your own. Budgeting is a 12-month process. It never ends. Budgets, terms, it's a plan, important to remember. We talked about some of those other terms. Budget, not to oversimplify it, is a 3-play drive. Now, if you're the New York Giants, the 3-play drive consists of handoff, handoff, interception. But in budgeting here in our district, the 3 plays are estimate the total revenue, estimate total appropriations, and step 3 must be that revenue and appropriations balance. And there's the board's role, not to be minimized or misunderstood in any way, very, very important. So again, part 1 is already on our website. Please take a look at it if you haven't done so already. So when we create the budget, what then? It just sits there as some sort of static document. Well, no, it does not. Part of managing the budget is to have ongoing oversight. And here's a list, and we'll go through them a little bit later. And then we have annual reviews. Purchasing review, extremely important. We always provide budget information to the general public by beginning with law and code. Nothing we do is outside of law or code. So we give you these laws and these codes so you can kind of take a look that we're not making things up as we go, but rather adhering to a very strict, very comprehensive set of guidelines. Every day that we, in the business office anyway, perform a review, a detailed review of every single item that is purchased, and we prepare a purchasing manual for staff to use. In fact, last Thursday, we had our annual purchasing workshop for district administrators who are involved in the budget process and those who work with them. When we spoke in part 1, we said 2 things, only 2 things. Fact number one, budget is a plan, and fact number two, plans change. So the tool that we have at our disposal to make those changes is called line item transfers. And again, there's the code and the statute for your review. And you'll see every single board meeting pretty much is reflective of that fact. Because you'll see early on in the new business section of the agenda tonight, try line item transfers. Oops, sorry, too fast. Right. Also, the list of bills. Again, law and code. We must pay for what we purchase. And you'll see on every single agenda, including tonight, we present for the board's approval a list of payments. So it's important, and we went over this in detail when we had our purchasing group last Thursday. This is the cycle. No one thing can come out of order with the other. They all must happen in exactly the order in which you see them, and they do. So a lot happens behind the scenes before a bills list is presented at a board meeting for approval. We appropriate the money in the budget. We encumber it for a specific purpose. We make the purchase. We prepare the list of bills, we put it on the agenda, and tomorrow we'll pay our bills. Oops. S-1701, that's an old law. Again, here's the code for you. Every single board agenda, again, has this reporting. A report of the board secretary, that's me. Those are the financial statements. Report of the treasurer of school monies, which is a bank reconciliation, which absolutely must and always does on the cash side agree exactly to the report of the board secretary. And then we reconcile the two every single month by law without exception. Cash flow analysis, it's not just get the bills and pay them. Every single month, at least, we analyze liquidity and solvency and flexibility in our budget. Nothing stays the same. We're always looking for new and better ways to do things, to manage our money, so to make us more efficient. Always talking. In a 12-month process, we do a lot of talking. In August, we sent out a lot of information to our budget managers so that they can digest the board's goals and objectives for the 2019-2020 school year budget. In another couple of weeks, Dr. Clark and I are going to go around and talk to every single stakeholder in the district about our budget to see what these departments and these managers have in plan for themselves and for the district to adhere to our goals. Annual reviews. The audit. We are just finishing up our annual audit as required by the statutes and as governed by both generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards and the Office of Management and Budgeting. Again, the board has a very significant role in managing the budget. They have to hire people who know what they're doing, not only we in the financial side in the business office, but hire a good independent auditor. Understand the various means by which the central office has to manage a budget. They do everything every month the way they're supposed to. They perform a detailed review of everything they're going to approve. They are going to approve in November the annual audit, and then they always remain informed. We always inform them, various means of information provided to them, so they'll understand every step of the way where we are in the budget cycle. Believe it or not, that's the end of part 2. If you haven't done so already, I would strongly urge you, this will also be on the budget section of the website tomorrow. Take a look at part 1 and part 2. If you understand that, it's very important for this board that the public understand the concept and the process of building and managing a budget, so that when things happen in the next few months, you know exactly what's happening and why. Make sense? Any questions? Awesome. Thanks so much for your attention.
a lot of talking. I almost feel like I'm going to lose my voice. So we thank you for being such an attentive audience for our student achievement presentation and for the budget training. I don't have any other comments, so that concludes my report. Thank you, President Fox.
Thank you very much. And now on to board comment. Excuse me, public comment. We'll do board comment in a minute. I'll work this way, and I see one in the middle here. And we've got two over here. In the back, yes. No, I mean halfway up, yes.
Good evening. Jen Sullivan, 694 Colgate Avenue. I'm here both as a concerned parent of two children in district. I have one in Cedar Creek and one in Mill Pond School. And I'm also an educator here at Lacey Township High School since 2000. Tradition, pride, and legacy. Three important words that adorn the letterhead of the schools, of our t-shirts to show unity. But I ask you, what do those three words mean to you? The textbook definitions are pretty basic. Tradition, the handing down of information, beliefs, of customs by word of mouth from one generation to another without written instruction. Pride, the quality or state of being proud. And legacy, something transmitted by or received from an ancestor or a predecessor in the past. In Lacey Township School District, there is a tradition of poor teacher retention since at least the year 2000 when I began here. Is this the result of boards of education in the past, and including now, being too proud to support their staff, either materially or in words and in deeds? And unfortunately, the legacy of the boards will be that the fact that Lacey Township is among the lowest paid in the county, a fact I'm sure you're aware of. And what does this all translate to? Incredible rates of turnover just this school year alone. You've heard the list. The list is growing, and the list will continue to grow. There is absolutely zero incentive in this district to seek an advanced degree. For as soon as you do earn that increment, it will quickly be gobbled up by the increase in healthcare costs. If you have ever worked incredibly hard and had nothing to show for it, then you would understand how that feels. I know many of you on the board are business owners, and I would like for you to take a moment to consider how you show your staff that you appreciate them and all the hard work that they do for you. I imagine that the staff you have are the reason that your businesses are successful. They may be the reason that you have an income. You know their worth, and you most likely compensate them fairly. When you do have a good staff member, you do everything in your power to retain them. My apologies. Unfortunately, that model might not apply in the case of school staff since we don't generate an income. But do you know what we do generate? For our students, we generate goals, dreams, a feeling of confidence never before experienced, that yes, you can do school, and in fact, you can be very good at it. We inspire young thinkers to want to know more, to value discovery, and to ask hard questions. We generate a sense of security, value, and above all else, we generate an endless supply of love for each and every one of our students. We know that is not something you can put a price tag on, but the staff of Lacey Township School District simply expect to be fairly compensated for the work they do and the professionals that they are. My children and the rest of the children of Lacey Township deserve better. Please join us at the table to accomplish our goals so that we, the staff, can focus more on providing peerless education for the students of Lacey Township and less on making our bills this month. Thank you for your time.
Hello. Kathleen Pilot, 459 Barnacle Road, Forkett River. Congratulations, Dr. Clark. I didn't know that this meeting was going on as far as the no contract, but it upsets me to see that our teachers do not have a contract yet. They're very valuable to the community. They're very valuable to the students. My daughter loves being in school this year, thank God. I worked very diligently with Jessica Franzen the very first day of school. I was sitting there before the school even started. Mr. Brandis saw me, and she was like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Her schedule needs to be changed," and we tweaked it, and now Amanda's very, very happy because of the teacher, Mr. Leonard. So the main reason why I'm here, and I apologize because I know that you guys want to talk about the contract. When I went to back to school night, and I did speak to Mr. Brandis about this in his office, but I just want the board to know my concerns. Back to school night, I believe, was September the 29th, 2018. So while I walked around, I saw that the auxiliary gym that the special ed students used was no longer a gym where they could use it as a regular gym. It is now the weight room. What angered me, because I feel that there's a lot of waste in the district as far as the school, is that there are 6 basketball nets that are on the wall that us as taxpayers paid for. Well, not myself, I've been here since 2011, but when the school was built, that can no longer be utilized. So who is the business manager? Okay. Would you, off the top of your head, have any idea how much it would cost for parts and labor of a basketball net on the wall? Because I mean, I looked up some, like a hypothetical. So I know that there are some that are more and some that are less. So I did a hypothetical. It's probably very high. You have 6 basketball nets at $2,500 per net. That's $15,000 that's on the wall. That can no longer be used. Now, there's one room there that Mr. Brandis, he took me around because I was like a raving lunatic that morning. So he was kind enough to take time out of his busy morning to show me around. And the one room has like these blue mats in it. I guess they use it for the wrestling, I'm not sure. And I had said my concern to him, you know, the kids like to play basketball. A lot of the special ed students, including my daughter, have sensory issues where if they are in a big gym, it's too loud for them. Now, if we can't give our special ed students the auxiliary gym back, because I never knew that it was being moved and the weight room was being made in there, the special ed students shouldn't have to have a gym as a credit. I know Amanda doesn't have to have it anymore because she's already accomplished her 4 years, and she'll be here until she's 21 with her IEP. But I strongly feel that if you guys, as the district, if the school is not going to use those basketball nets, sell them. Put that money back into the district. Mr. Brandis did give me a call, but Mr. Brandis, I apologize because you and I have been playing phone tag, as to getting a basketball net put somewhere else so the kids could play basketball. It's not just the basketball net, it's the whole thing in a nutshell. The special ed students shouldn't have to go into the big gym. even if you push the curtain, they can still hear the echo of that. And like my daughter gets very beside herself and starts to pace and have just an emotional meltdown. And I really do not feel that it's fair to the special ed kids, and I feel that the district is discriminating against them because they really don't have a place to go now that's away from all the noise when all the other students are playing regular gym. So that's my one thing. Mr. Leonard, I don't know if you guys are aware, but Mr. Leonard got the students hooked up with the DVRS, which I am very excited about, for the kids to get some type of job, which they never had that opportunity before, because when my first day of school, I was very adamant about having Amanda go out of district to Harbor School. So I did a little bit of research, and I found that it's as bad as the Arc of Ocean County. The students there are even worse because I spent a half a day there. So thank God that you have Mr. Bond now, who I like a lot because I feel as though he listens to what I have to say versus the other two people prior to him, minus Mr. Dorso. Mr. Dorso was very good, and he knows my concerns. I spoke to him today about a couple of things. I'm not going to discuss it. I choose not to. He knows what I'm talking about. Also, the life skills for the multiply handicapped students. The one class that you have there, I feel we've discussed this in full detail, Dr. Clark. I feel it's a babysitting class. I got my daughter out of that particular class after the second marking period because I told Mr. O'Neill if I wanted my daughter to be in a daycare, I would have signed her up for adult daycare. The life skills, and I've spoke to Mr. Leonard, Jessica Franzen, and Mr. Bond twice at the beginning of the school year already, and Mr. Brandis. The life skills class, I feel, for the special ed students is extremely weak. So what I had discussed with them is that the students in the Harbor School, and I keep harping about the Harbor School, the Harbor School has a room that's set up as an apartment. Basically, it has a bed, it has a kitchen, a bed, a bathroom, the cabinets. Everything is utilized in uniform, so when a student goes there, they're basically set up for life either in an assisted type of living or living home with their parents and knowing how to live making a bed, doing the laundry, setting up the apartment with the cabinets. Now, everybody's probably going to say, this lady is crazy. That happens at home. Of course it happens at home. But the student is here 5 days a week, and it's more repetitious. And the student will listen to the teacher versus listening to a parent. What kid wants to make a bed at home? But if the student has that repetitious of doing the laundry and folding the laundry and making sure that the counter is sanitized and everything is neat and order and stuff in a refrigerator, I feel that the students in this district will be set up for life better than students that don't have that opportunity. Mr. Brandis he and I had discussed getting some type of a day bed. I know that you left me a message, and once again, I apologize because I've been going back and forth. So I hope that happens soon. Mr. Bond knows about that also. And the last thing is, I know it's been 2 years, but do you remember when I called you when we had the bad superintendent here? Mr. Mr., what was his name? Mr. Wigley? Okay, so I just want everybody to know about Linda, what she did for me. So 2 years ago, my daughter was getting bullied on the bus, and I don't like her para, but that's besides the point, and I fired that para after 2 years of nonsense. So I emailed Linda, and I explained to her my concerns. You immediately emailed me back because the superintendent refused to call me back. As soon as I hung up with you, you must have called him or emailed him, and he called me and he stated to me, there is a chain of command, Miss Pilot. You need to follow that. So I kind of basically gave him a big fat F you on the phone. You could stick it where the sun doesn't shine, because I feel as though the board was basically handled as the good old boys club, and that women were secondary in this district while he was on board as our superintendent. And I got those vibes. Why? Because I worked in a corporate setting, so I know the type of person that he was. So I wanted to thank you in front of everybody for helping me. And that's it.
Tony Rizzoli, Sunrise Beach. Fasten your seatbelt. Page 3 of your agenda, you talk about, quote, overexpended in the audited report, where you had to make sure that sufficient funds were available to meet the district's needs, financial obligations for the remainder of the fiscal year. Now, does that mean that all the money that you've got, you had to account for by August of 2018? What you were going to use it for?
I'm not sure I understand your question, but...
Under number 4.
Yep, I see it.
So the accountant said that you have this money,
Right.
you've delegated this money to be spent on these items, and it all matches, and you're good, right?
Right, that no line item has been...
Overextended or anything?
Overexpended, that's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
that's great. Now, the state took $500,000, correct?
590 almost.
Okay, $590,000 they took.
That's correct.
Okay. Number 5, on the same page, you're going into litigation. In litigation, you're going to marry with other school districts, which is an economical way to do it. I would think the more school districts you get involved, the less the cost of the attorney and the attorney's fees and everything else, correct? Okay. It's going to cost $10,000. If you've already accounted for the money, where'd you get the money? Where'd you get the 10 grand?
Right. It's in legal fees. It just is.
Just
Yeah, we
as part of it.
decided
You
that
didn't
we
take it from,
No.
there's no line item
No,
that
never.
you took the money out of?
Not right now, no.
Oh, okay. But there will be in the future?
I can't answer that question.
Well, it also says that, if this law group represents the board in litigation at a cost not to exceed $10,000, then it goes on to say, in the event there is a need for additional funds, the proposed expense would be considered by the Board of Ed. So there may be a higher cost, correct?
It's very possible, but it's
Okay.
also possible there could be a lower cost. We
But
don't
if
know
you've
yet.
already accounted for the money, you've got to get the money from someplace, so
Right.
there has to be a line item.
Transfer, that's right.
Okay, so you're going to be taking the money from someplace.
If we need it, yes.
Have any idea where you're taking it from?
No, sir, not right now. 'cause
Okay,
don't
so
need
we may have some programs that will be cut.
it. I don't see that, no.
No, well, you've already accounted for the money. See, this is where transparency
What are you trying to
comes
get
in.
at?
I want to know where the money's coming from if you're going to be spending more money that you already had the state taken away. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I'm not sure what part doesn't make sense.
Well, if you had $500,000 taken that you already had built into your budget,
Right.
okay, and you've taken $10,000 now, after the accountant has already accounted for the money that this says you've already delegated to be used, it's a $10,000 difference that I don't know, you got to be getting the money from somewhere.
Right. The budget doesn't increase at all. The budget's the budget. As for the $590,000, you've heard me say ample times that things change, right, from the original plan.
Right.
We planned on a certain amount for health benefits, and the increase in the annual cost of health benefits was a little bit lower than we budgeted for, so therefore, we used some of that money to
So you had a surplus?
pay, be careful of the words you use. No surplus. That's not good. So we were able to make the payment to the state, at least right now, of $590,000 because we had what's called breakage. In some areas, we had more expense than we thought. That's budgeting. You hear me talk about that all the time. So where there is a need, like in your own life, right, your own personal finances, you think you're going to buy a refrigerator at the beginning of the year, it doesn't work out because...
Kind of like seniors living on a fixed income. You know, you only get so much in, and you have to
Sure.
budget everything.
If you like, right,
Okay.
same thing, anyone, not just seniors, everyone goes through that, you know. So sometimes things change, and situations dictate that we have to not do Plan A, but Plan B. That's what managing budgets is all about.
I'm just concerned, there's no cap mentioned at all where it says, you may have to spend more for the attorney fees. And you didn't set a cap. But the money, as you said, things change and you have to get the money from somewhere. When you get the money from somewhere, it has to come from somewhere.
Right.
And if it's already delegated and been set where it was going to go, the point comes down to we're going to be in real fiscal problems in this township, okay? And to always keep that in mind, that we have fiscal responsibilities. And in reference to that, I went on the website and I looked at our mission statement. In the mission statement on the website, there is nowhere on the mission statement that says that the superintendent or the administration has any fiscal stewardship or responsibility to the taxpayer for the taxpayers' dollars that they spend on for this district. I would like to request that somewhere, and who's the policy person, whoever the board member who's the policy person, Mr. Saletti, if you're still here after the election, I would request that we look at possibly adding a statement that says that the fiscal stewardship and responsibility is on the superintendent and the administration in this district to make sure that the taxpayers' interests are in fact well served, or something to that effect. As far as your presentation today about the park program going away, to me, it means less testing is less accountability. That's what it means to me, okay? You mentioned that we have MAP and you have local assessments that are being done. Do they really measure our district against other districts in New Jersey, or do they measure primarily us against us? My concerns as a taxpayer come to where do we rank in the state? Are we getting the best bang for our buck? When it comes to the real world, you get paid for performance.
Right, so let me just clarify something before you go on.
Go ahead.
I said that the word park was going away. I didn't say statewide assessments were going away. They're being renamed to the NJSLS
Okay.
DLA and the NJSLS Math. So one of the things that I mentioned in my presentation was that while the name was going away, park in and of itself, even though it has a new name, was going to look very much like the old park. Meaning that the Commissioner of Education has taken a great time to collect feedback and input from educators across the state. And it was determined that there would be a name change, but all of the work that has gone into redesigning that assessment will stay intact.
Okay,
So while, hold on, I'm not done. While the units may decrease and the time spent on testing will decrease, the assessment itself will remain in place. And that assessment is what the State Department of Education is going to use to hold us and every other school district in the state of New Jersey accountable.
So there still will be measurements against other
Absolutely,
districts?
absolutely.
Okay. So when we see improvement in where our rankings are, then we know we're getting better bang for the buck for performance. And that's our only measurement of performance to the taxpayer. So those are the kinds of things that we should look for. I know I complimented you many times in the past about the fact that, we have drug and alcohol testing. We have a lot of things that we do that other districts don't do. Or our graduation rate, for example, was high, kept going up. But today you reported that the AP performances were going down. But in contrast to that, we have, what we did with Ocean County, which is saving parents money. So the real thing comes down to the kids that we are graduating out of our district are the future workers for this area, for this region, okay? And in our particular case, it's no longer Oyster Creek Nuclear Power Plant. It's going to be a thing called Holtec. And Holtec needs people in science, they need people in math, they need people in computers. Not to say that we shouldn't do those things with history and humanity and English and art and all those things, but that's not where the workers are going to be needed in this region. If we're going to supply workers to the industry that's going to be in this town, and they're going to be able to use our people from our town to have good jobs, we've got to produce workers that have those kinds of backgrounds and excel in those particular categories. And that was only the point I wanted to make on that. Something else. Mr. Claus and Mr. Saletti, can I excuse you from this next question? Okay. I wrote at the last meeting, I brought up an issue about the public being able to ask questions of the candidates for the Board of Ed. And in rethinking it, I came up with a concern. So I wrote a letter to the superintendent, and the superintendent told me that she would pass the letter on to the rest of the board members. So was that done?
It was.
Okay, which you said you would do. So I would like to ask Mr. Riggs, Mr. Morandi, Ms. Downing, and Mr. Giordano, did you receive that idea, and what is your feedback on that idea? Should the public be able to submit questions to the board candidates? Let the students ask the questions after naming the people from town, taxpayers, or the media, who would submit the questions in advance. But what's your position on that?
Are you talking about like they used to do it years ago? I don't know if you were in town then, or if you were
I've been in town since 1985.
Sorry, I can't see it. I don't have my contacts. They used to have like a forum in the cafeteria of one of the schools, usually the high school, and it wasn't a debate, but there were questions where the public could come up and ask a question, and the candidates would answer it. Is that what you're referring? Like, is that the idea?
Well, I was thinking of using the close-up club and what they do for the candidates' night, but letting the students ask the questions that the public would submit, and the superintendent would be able to call what the inappropriate questions would be in advance. And the board would take care on a one-on-one situation, not in public, the inappropriate questions, because as I heard, you want to eliminate the drama of the public coming up to this thing and upsetting the children. So that would eliminate the drama.
Let me, is this on? It's off. Let me take this question. We did get, this is your idea,
Go ahead.
right? So we were informed about the idea. I think you were told that you could approach the teacher that runs the Close-Up Club and talk to them about how you could solicit.
I don't talk to teachers. I'm talking to the board.
No, but wait, hear me out. The
Go ahead.
board can't get involved in an election, which is why you just excused those two gentlemen.
Mhm.
The superintendent can't get involved in an election. So this is a great idea because you're trying to solicit feedback from the public. Talk to the Close-Up director, the person that runs that club. If they agree to your idea, I don't see any reason why you couldn't solicit feedback. Then the students and the close-up director can vet those questions. I'm more than certain that they'll be able to deem which ones would be appropriate and which ones would not be, and then ask the questions at the candidate night. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
Anybody have a problem with that?
No, truthfully, I think the club should keep on going the way it's been going. And I think if you're interested in this, I think you should talk to all the candidates. Have another night where the public could ask the candidates questions.
But the candidates would have to set something up then.
Well, all
And
you
that's
have
the
to do is
problem.
get-
See, the only venue historically in the town has been the Close-Up Club Candidates Night. That's the only venue
Why
for,
couldn't we have a
other than I believe the teachers hold a candidates night in private and to resolve whatever issues they have, in particular with specific candidates.
I
But-
think Ms. DeSenza had to meet the candidates night in years past. Candidates can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Do the kids actually pick the questions out? Do they make their own questions?
Yes, they make their own questions.
And that's one of the things that I explained to Mr. Rizzoli in his email, that it is an important event for the students because it provides them with that opportunity that is a tenet of what the Close-Up Club is, for the students to be able to work with their advisor in developing these questions. And the reason why I stress to you that you should discuss your ideas, because perhaps there is another venue that doesn't involve the Close-Up Club, where the public could come up with questions. And that was the point I was trying to make in my email.
Well, I appreciated the fact that you responded and did what you said you were going to do. But again, I'll go back to what I said last time. The students don't vote. Taxpayers vote. So those are my concerns. Thank you very much for your time.
I think this is more for the kids having experience, asking questions when it comes to this. How long's the close-up question and answer? Is it like an hour? Or more?
Probably a little bit. It depends on how many candidates there are.
6 people and 5 questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rizzoli.
Good evening, Richard Bidnick, Lake Barnegat Drive. I have a couple points I wanted to make. One, these stuff that just came up at the meeting. There was talk about you're suing the state for the $590,000 that was reduced from your budget. It wasn't taken away, it was actually reduced. The state has the right to do that. I, as a citizen, am against you suing the state because you're suing each one of us taxpayers when you do that. And the state has to control its spending. And if you were to win this suit, we, the taxpayers, would land up paying for it. I think it's a terrible idea, personally, because the money has to come from somewhere. And who's going to pay for it but the taxpayers? There's a thing called living within your means. We are in reality check right now. New Jersey has the highest property taxes in the United States. You have to start living in the real world, not the delusional world that, everybody wants to have the pie in the sky type of thing. But for the extreme amount of money that you are receiving for a school district, I think that, I just wanted to go on the record as a taxpayer that I am against suing the state on this issue. I think it's wrong. First of all, the idea that you're going to be spending $10,000 and there's an unlimited amount because it was not capped, because you can't do that, because actually this could turn out to be an extremely long litigation process, and then it could cost a hell of a lot more money than that. So that's an issue right there. It's like going in blindsided. Anybody who knows anything about lawsuits knows that the expenses can be extraordinary. So another thing to think about, it's great to say you're going to sue and you have this idea and stuff. You also may lose. And if you lose, then all of the money that we spent on the legal fees are thrown out the window, and they could have been used for something more logical in the school district here. So as a taxpayer, I'd like to go on the record for that. The other comment I wanted to make, too, was about all the testing scores. You can basically skew statistics. I'm a former library director. I've had to do presentations for all types of things. It would have been great to see the actual numbers, like, not just the general number, oh, we're 25% here or 10% there, but actually see the percentage of students that are taking these tests and are finishing below that number, because we know there are, and to see where we really are standing. I think that's really somewhat more important. There's nothing wrong with pointing out all of the major deficiencies. I think that that's extremely important for all of us and as taxpayers to see exactly what the problems are and then centering in on all of those. But just throwing a whole bunch of numbers out there, it kind of leaves everything like up in the air, and it would be better to turn it around and do it in a different way for future presentations where we see the actual numbers and you actually say, well, we have 18 students in this class that are 10% or 18% below, or they were between these ranges in the test scores, so we can actually get a better idea of actually what is happening there. Okay, one of the things that I did want to mention tonight, and I have absolutely specific questions, is the Lacey School District a closed shop union? Well, a closed shop union means that every employee in a certain segment has to be a member of that union, whether they like it or not. You don't know. You're the employer, but you do not know.
I believe they don't have to belong to the union. They might have to pay a percentage of the union fees.
Okay.
But not according to the new
Right. That's something,
case law.
exactly. So the Supreme Court passed at the end of June the Janus decision, which basically said that all public employees are no longer required to have to pay any union dues. I want to know how that is being implemented in this school district, because first of all, since it was in June, and since New Jersey passed legislation in April called the Workplace Democracy Enhancement Act, which gives employees or employers 10 days before their anniversary date to notify the union or the employee that they do not intend to pay union dues or fees. Now, this is being challenged right now in the courts because it's basically unconstitutional to basically tell a person that they only have a 10-day gap when they can withdraw from the union fees, etc. I want to know, as the employer, how you have put this into place and how you're informing each employee within 30 days of their anniversary date that they have the right to not have to pay any union dues or fees. How has that been implemented in this school district, since this is the law?
It's a great question. I meet with Mr. Ryan, our union president, on a regular basis. That'll be a topic of conversation at our next meeting, and I will have an answer for you.
Okay, so you're telling me that since June, this has been the law. Most of the, I'm assuming, the teachers' contracts went from September the 1st. Is that correct?
What was the last part of the question?
Still negotiating.
Right, but it goes by the date that they actually started employment, on their anniversary date. That is the New Jersey law that was passed in anticipation of the Janus decision in June. So, you, as the employer, need to make sure that every employee within 30 days of their anniversary date is informed that they do not have to belong to the union and that they do not have to pay the union dues. This is an issue for me because we, the taxpayers, pay the employees their salary. And then the idea that that money is being taken out of their salaries if people do not want to be a member of a union because unions do spend an exorbitant amount of money trying to buy political influence in the state. That's basically unconstitutional according to the Supreme Court. So it's very important that everybody knows what their rights are, because I don't know what the union dues are, and if it's a percentage of someone's salary or if it's just a flat amount. I don't know how that works in this particular. I actually ran an institution that was unionized, so I understand all these type of things. So specifically, what you're telling me is that you have not done anything yet with this? You haven't? Okay. Well, I suggest that you take care of that quite quickly, because people's basically constitutional rights are being denied them if they're not even aware of this. So, and since we just heard tonight someone speaking about their salaries not being enough, well, they don't have to pay their union dues, and that will certainly be enough extra money in their pocket. Thank you very much.
Rhiannon Mendis, 1771 Woodside Road, Fort Good River. We're here again tonight, still without a contract, and I want to point out to our residents of Lacey Township that the staff of Lacey Schools are also members of its community. Approximately 70% of us live here and are taxpayers as well. But whether their residence is in town or not, they're always serving this community. Some of us do it while coaching sports, working on academic programs, helping parents map out the best paths for future opportunities. Some of us do it with second and third jobs, landscaping, waitressing, selling real estate, killing bugs. And we've all done it throughout these negotiations. Right now, we're the lowest paid in the county with the exception of Lakewood, which has other extenuating factors. But just 8 years ago, this staff was threatened with major cuts. Our non-tenure staff was pink-slipped and a vote was taken. A pay freeze was enacted. This is what we gave the community. The average teacher lost between $25,000 and $100,000 of income over their career by taking that pay freeze, and that is per person. I don't think the board or the public is aware of that, but that was our contribution to help fix this problem. No other district agreed to a freeze, and year after year we're told there's nothing that we can do. When I mentioned that we're the lowest paid in Ocean County, I did so without any reference, so let me give you some numbers. And I'm only going off of my base salary, not off an advanced degree or longevity. If I had been working in Manchester, right now I'd be making $6,000 more a year. Bricktown, $7,000. Toms River or Jackson, $8,800. Even closer, Berkeley, $12,000. And if I took a few more Praxis exams and went to Central or Southern, $20,000 or more. And I don't say this because I'm leaving. I say this as a mother with kids in the district who's watching teachers exit. There seem to be no new ideas, just cuts. And I've heard the argument that there have been no cuts, but this is also not true. We've been losing around 5 positions a year to retirements that are not replaced. Our class sizes and special ed populations in some places are increasing, our workloads are much larger, our testing demands have increased, and our paychecks are smaller. As members of the community, we understand the impacts on this town. The plant is closing, the forever rising taxes, but here's the reality though. This staff cannot give anymore. We're tapped out. We've sacrificed pay and time. So here's what I have found as some solutions, and this is where I believe some of our problems can be solved. And it's time for the school board and the town to join in revenue-producing programs utilized and funded by some of those using the programs. We need funds for transportation. Subscription busing isn't cutting it. I found a local advertiser willing to place ads on buses that would generate a minimum bottom dollar $40,000 a year, which is a drop in the bucket, but this would be with one ad per bus at minimal price points. No middleman. Somebody would have to run it and get some local businesses to sign on, but there is enough revenue to make a difference. Other districts keep up to 65% of this revenue, and the funds pay for fuel. We can get corporate sponsorships on supply lists. Districts have received up to $9,000 for that. We can have fee-based summer camps. Ads on our websites, the gym, the cafeteria have raised up to $100,000 in other districts. We now have an educational partnership with what Ms. DeSenza has put together, a new 503C with an ability for the public and private sector donations to fund various projects. It can include educational enrichment, literacy, dropout prevention, job skills. All of this takes the strain off of our regular budget for extras and even maintenance. There's ways to make it work. We just need to start implementing them. The scariest phrase in education is, "This is how we've always done it." We need changes, and we can no longer say that we can't. We are community members too, looking for a fair contract that allows us to continue working in education. I've already spoken about how many strong staff we've lost, and now we can add another history teacher and the head of our high school guidance department. Julie Cicerone was brought in highly regarded by Dr. Brower, and she has now left the district, as well as 2 other high school guidance counselors who left last year. The fact that she coordinated college admissions, ran the scholarship program, excuse me, and oversees our guidance staff is really concerning for our graduating class. It's another big hit, and it's time to make changes. It's time to generate revenue and to keep our staff here. Thank you.
Good evening. Frank Horvath, 42 Hilltop Drive, Lenoka Harbor. Resident and taxpayer in town and also a candidate for the Board of Education. I received a letter from Mr. Rizzoli along with, I believe, Dr. Clark and all the candidates. Unfortunately, due to an obligation that I have since July, I will be unable to attend that candidate's night. However, I think his idea is an excellent idea, and I really would like to extend it to the 2 incumbent candidates and the 3 other challengers, that we put something together so the residents and taxpayers of the town have an opportunity to ask questions of the candidates and get answers in an open forum. So I'd like to put that out. I don't know if the school can facilitate a location for that, if that's permitted with the election laws or not, if all candidates are involved. But I'd really like to put that out there, and I hope that the other candidates will join me in accepting that. Again, it's regrettable that I won't be able to attend because I think it's an excellent thing for the students. I think Dr. Clark mentioned that, for them to learn a little bit about the election process and about civics. But however, even though I can't attend that, I really believe that the taxpayers in this town and the residents of the town should have an opportunity to hear from all the candidates. Thank you.
On the one page with the bullying and harassment, I think it's page 11, where it says the interview procedure was, I brought the wrong paper. See where it says the bullying, harassment, and intimidation, the interview process has been...
You mean under policies and regulations?
Yeah. What does that mean? Where it says
So-
it's been
Oh, you
revoked?
mean where it says move that the board approve the second reading and adoption?
Yeah.
So the policy committee, chaired by Mr. Saletti, and I meet once a month, and Strauss Esme, who is the organization that provides updates to our policies and regulations, they suggest recommended changes to language. Some language is mandated for change. So what happens is we review the policies and regulations during a policy meeting, and then the policy and regulations that we discuss go on for a first read. What happens is the following month at the board meeting, if there was no further discussion and no further clarification was needed, then those same policies and regulation go on for what's called a second read and adoption. That's what you're seeing right there. So the
Okay.
list that's under second read and adoption was on last month's agenda for a first read.
Because Amanda was bullied the second year of high school, and that's one of the reasons why I had emailed Linda, and I felt that it was being swept under the rug by the supervisor. And I was very adamant that certain people be either changed or fired because of them not taking care of the situation. I think I had discussed with you, I don't remember when our last meeting was, if it was after senior prom, but I was affected. My family member committed suicide because of bullying. So it's very important to me that this district takes bullying and makes it a priority, because it's been swept under the rug by other administrators here. And it has changed our whole entire life. So when Amanda was getting bullied the second year of school, and I believe the supervisor was Julie, I think, in 10th grade. I think it was Julie. I strongly felt as though it was just being swept under the rug, and that no matter how many emails, no matter how many meetings, it wasn't being taken care of. So when I did discuss it with Linda the last time, and Craig was the superintendent, and he basically told me there was a chain of command, and I at one time thought that I had spoken to Mr. Brandis, and it wasn't. It was actually the vice principal who basically did nothing about it. Linda helped me with that. But bullying is a very bad thing, especially when it comes from, well, my cousin was bullied by family members. And it has changed everything. So I just hope that if a parent comes to school and says their child is being bullied, whether it be verbal assault, mental assault, physical assault, that it is taken with the utmost priority in the district. Being that you are now the superintendent, I have known you for quite a few years, and you know me. To me, you're more kind and loving and caring and considerate versus any other person that I have dealt with on the board, as well as Linda. I don't really know any of you other gentlemen here. I basically have dealt with these two women. But it is such an important thing that when a student comes in and says, oh, I got slammed up against the locker. Oh, okay, we're just going to write it up. Listen to that student. Listen to those parents. Even when it's internet bullying. You know, I had a friend of mine from Wall Township. They had the FBI involved. They did nothing. They took that student out of Wall Township High School and put her in a private school. She was going to commit suicide. That was last year. So that's basically there's another thing I have to say. The old business, I don't know, did he leave? The old business administrator, what is his retirement? The business administrator that we used to have. What is his retirement? What is his salary? What did he leave with as far as his retirement? Do you know? Wasn't it like
That's really a
200?
personal issue I can't really discuss with you. That's an employee or ex-employee's personal.
I thought that was public record.
It probably is, you can look for it.
You can if you want to, but I can't
online.
really tell you.
Okay, well, he made more than the superintendent. So the moral of the story is that maybe if the district starts to clamp down on paying upper administration high salaries and really pay attention to their spending, the teachers can get paid more. Because I know that my one daughter's teacher, he got cut. And he was a great special ed teacher. And Amanda suffered for a whole year until Mr. Leonard came along. And I feel that if you're going to pay upper administration, and these teachers have sacrificed for years of not getting a raise, and the cost of living is going up and up and up, take care of the teachers. Take care of everybody involved who hasn't gotten a raise. It's not fair to them when all upper administration is getting a raise. And, I mean, I even get a $9 raise in child support, hallelujah, for a cost of living raise. But it's not fair to all these men and all these women who have sacrificed, and they're great with the kids. It's just not fair. So that's all I have to say.
Amanda Biron, 208 Lakeview Court, Forked River. Also a candidate for Board of Ed this year. My running mate is Frank Horvath. I do apologize up front that I'm absolutely freezing, so if my voice is crackling and I'm shaking, it's because I'm really cold, and I see Regina's got the right idea with the jacket on, so just please. Okay, a couple points. First thing is I would like to propose to the board open committee meetings. Toms River and other districts around the area have open committee meetings to the public so that they can hear what's going on behind the closed doors and what kind of negotiations and what kind of things you guys are looking at. That's number one. Number two, I watched last month's Board of Ed meeting in its entirety 3 times. I apologize I couldn't be here. I had an emergency I had to take care of. And during that meeting, Mr. Rizzoli was talking about, and Dr. Clark, yourself, was talking about the higher enrollments in kindergarten, especially, that you had to hire the 2 teachers at the end of the summer. And while I appreciate your efforts in telling the public that you'd like to collect some data on why, when asked the question, why do you think that happened? I think I might have an answer for everyone in this room that I'd like to bring up. And I'm going to quote a policy here on municipal tax abatements. And this is from Stockton University, from the William Hughes Center for Public Policy. So I don't know if I didn't know this before I read this, but anyone else in this room, including yourselves, know this. New Jersey municipalities can grant tax abatements through these payment in lieu of tax or pilot programs. And those family apartments that went up by the recycling center, that whole area over there, is included in this. Basically, it allows for a significant reduction or elimination of property taxes paid to local government by certain types of development projects. Currently, the New Jersey law gives municipalities broad, and I stress the word broad, discretion to grant tax abatements. These abatements, negotiated between the municipalities and the developers, do not provide any revenue, zero, for taxing entities other than municipal government. So fire districts and boards of education get 0 tax dollars from those apartments. But yet, we have to pay for those 50 students plus because I'm sure it wasn't just 50 kindergarten students, and I'm not saying they all came from there, but we, in this whole room, including the teachers who are not getting raises, are suffering. And I'm going to talk personally now that I really think it's time to act now on Governor Murphy's tax cuts. I love the idea of getting the bus together. Let's go. I'll rally the town. Let's all get on the bus and let's all stand on the steps of Trenton and tell him that these cuts have to stop. We need to take bold and aggressive action against these. The funding cuts are going to cause educators, parents, and students to suffer drastically, as they've already started to do. Our teachers in this district, and I'm sure teachers all over, but personally speaking now, I have 5 kids that have been in this district, and these teachers are part of my family. And the fact that they have gotten no raise for the amount of years that they're stating, and they are working right now, today, without a contract, is ludicrous. Ludicrous. This should be #1 priority right now. I know the town had to pay $3,000 in a lawsuit because somebody didn't give up some Board of Education meeting minutes in an OPA request. That's like wasted money. What are we doing here? We really need to focus in. These teachers need to be supplemented for the effort. And they become part of our family. If I was elected to this board, I know it's not part of your responsibility, but I would oppose any new municipal tax abatement projects in this town. I was appalled to hear, well, happy to hear, but appalled to hear that 70% of our certified staff in this town live in this town. These people live here. Our educators live here, and 80% of the support staff live here, the bus drivers, the custodians. Listen to what these people are saying. You're going to lose them. We're going to lose them. And your numbers are going to tank. And then you're going to want to know, why are your numbers tanking? Because all these people who are veterans, who have been in this town, lived in this town, gave their life to our children, are going somewhere else. It's already started. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Regina DeSenza, Sunset Drive, Sunrise Beach. Some people know that I attend a lot of meetings in town. It's interesting that Ms. Baran discussed the pilot program that the low-income housing is not paying taxes. I have to tell everyone that I was present at those planning board meetings, and you know what? Nobody else was. And I couldn't speak up as one person, okay? When a project like that comes to town, there should be more than 2 or 3 members of the public in the room when this town has 28,000 people in it. So I find it ironic now that this whole twist of fate has come to pass, that those apartment buildings are there and not one person said a word about them getting the pilot program. It's very unfortunate because now we suffer for it. But that's the way things are around here. There are many, many meetings I go to, and I am the only person in the room. And that's been true for nearly 15 years. I go to MUA meetings, I am the only person there. Home Depot put a copper chromate arsenic sound wall on our wellhead protection area. and I was the person that found out about it. That's the way things go in this town. Sorry to say, people got to stay on top of stuff. And that pilot program is going to hurt this district for years to come. Now, I do have a question because I was recently approached by a retired teacher, and they said they got a letter in the mail that the state health plan on January 1st was changing over to Aetna. Is that true for just the retiree health plans or all the state health plans? Does anyone know about that?
It's retirees.
Only retirees? So that wouldn't have any effect on our budget?
But retirees who are Medicaid eligible.
Really?
Yeah. That's
Well, that
called
isn't the way I
Medicare
understood it.
Advantage. Yeah.
Okay, that's why I had to clarify. Thank you.
Next time, don't go so far away.
I know, I was going to leave, but there's comments that were made that are actually, you guys could answer the public, but you didn't. So I'm going to answer them for them. One was the
Question about the contracts that the teachers have been under. The teachers have gotten raises. If you look at the contracts, which are available online, you can read them, they've received their raises. And one of the other individuals, I don't know what the lady's name was, that was talking before, she was mentioning about the former superintendent. I'm going to explain something to everybody tonight. In the contracts that the teachers have and the administrators, they have with the ability to never use or barely use any of the sick days that they are entitled to in their contract, and vacation days, whatever they may be, or personal days. They build up over many, many years. And the previous CEO or CFO, whatever, of the town, that payout that was made was all the sick days that he never took and vacation days. It was a large amount of money. And each teacher in this school district has the same situation. And if you look on the books, I'm not exactly sure what the figure is right now. Patrick right here would be able to tell you. It's in the millions and millions, I think it was like $20 million, that we are on the hook for unused sick days as taxpayers. Now, wherever I have worked, it's called you use it or you lose it type of a situation. Sick days are meant if you're really sick, not to be taken as an extra vacation day or a golden parachute. But that is the way that it is right now. And just so you know, that people can cry about a lot of things in their contracts and such, but there are a lot of padded things in there, like very expensive health benefits, which, you know, there's just probably another solution that it could be done. The employees could be given a certain amount of money and they could go and buy their own health insurance on the insurance marketplaces, like a large part of the American population has to do, plus the exorbitant amount of prescription drug payments that are needed to be paid for this school district, which if you look at the figures, they're extreme. There's a lot of things there, and the pension contributions, et cetera, et cetera. It all really adds up. It's not only about the salary. When you go into education, part of the thing is that there are all these extra benefits that you get. Summer is off, if you choose to take them off, you know, that type of a thing. Education really needs to be a labor of love in this day and age. And as I say to people who are crying and they're going to leave, there are a lot of young teachers out there who are enthusiastic and really want to work. And a lot of times you get some of the best production as teachers from your new teachers that come in. This has been shown over and over again. They're enthusiastic, they're not burned out, they really want to work hard. That's just the way that it goes. I'm just saying this as a taxpayer so that people are aware there's two sides of the story. I'm not saying, you know, people who are educators, I salute them because it should be an education of love, just like my work always was. I never went into my field expecting to make a large amount of money. I did it because I love libraries. And libraries mean everything to me. They gave me a lot in my life, and I chose to work in that field. I think it's really important that, you know, you need to put it in perspective. Just in this state in particular, because the taxes are so high. That is not my fault. It's just the way that it goes. But if you look at the situation, the school board basically has to look out for the citizens too. They are taxpayers themselves. The school employees are a small number of the population. You need to look out for everyone in the community. That's the thing. And I know you're trying to get your contract through and stuff. I just wish that people would be a little bit more understanding. There are a lot of retired people here, a lot of people whose incomes are very low, and they really can't afford the tax increases. So, as a person who is concerned about every penny being spent and accountable, I think that's really, really important. Thank you for listening to me.
Good evening. Michael Ryan, President of the LTA. Excuse my voice, I'm a little sore throat this week. Usually I reserve my comments for the microphone for special occasions or certain things, but I needed to come up and address the former citizen, the citizen that was just up to speak to the board and the town with regards to some of the things that were a little inaccurate. He referred to sick days as a payout or as a cushion. What the public needs to understand is when you have a negotiated salary, part of your salary, which by the way, we're one of the lowest in the county, part of your sick days is part of your negotiated salary. So when people get it at a later time, it's a deferred payment for something that is part of their salary. So if I don't take it now and I take it later, that is my payment. It's not a bonus, it's not a cushion, it's part of the negotiated salary. He also talked about the raises. Yes, that's true. There have been raises. However, with the raises, there was a law that went into effect called Chapter 78 that went into effect in 2011. And due to the results of that law, it has continually decreased the take-home pay of our support staff and our teachers. So while on paper it looks like we're getting a raise, the actual take-home dollar amount is less and less every year since 2011. Those are facts. He talked about young teachers. We love young teachers. However, when you have young teachers come into a field of education, they need someone to mentor them. They need someone. We talk about legacy. What are they leaving behind? And yes, young teachers, they're out there. But guess what? If I was a college student and I come every month and I see my former students that are going on to colleges, and I talk to them all the time. And you know what? One of the fields that they aren't going into is education, because it is not a viable living source of an income anymore. It used to be a respected career path where you could support your family on an education or a teacher's salary. You no longer can do that. That's why the decline in teachers coming out of college is on the rise. He talked about not getting rich. We're not asking to get rich. What we're asking for is a livable wage. If you look at every year, there was a flyer that went out for Habitat for Humanity. Many of the teachers would qualify for their take-home income, as well as our support staff, to qualify for Habitat for Humanity homes right here in town. Right here in town. He talked about the taxpayers in this district. Like I said, 70% of our teachers are taxpayers here in this town. 80+% our support staff are taxpayers in town. Not only that, the ones that don't live in town are state taxpayers. And Mr. DeGeorge, correct me if I'm wrong, does the school board receive state aid?
Yes.
Okay, so we're all taxpayers, not just Lacey, we also pay state taxes as well. So I just wanted to get up here and clarify some of that with some of those rumors in town. So when we talk about these cushions or these bonuses that we get of these sick days, that's part of our negotiated salary. We just defer that. And there's been laws passed that cap that dollar amount. So there's a capped amount that teachers and support staff can no longer exceed. So again, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to clarify some of these misconceptions that may be out there.
Now to move on to new business.
Board comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, I'm sorry.
You want to just,
Go ahead. I will, I'm sorry, I've done that before. Mr.
All So first of all, Amanda, you are 100% right. It is freezing in here right now. I'm with you. I'm sitting next to the vent over here. I got a great way we can make some money. Don't set the thermostat to 50 degrees. Would be a great way we can make a couple more bucks around here. So it was nice to see all you guys. It was nice to see all the teachers come back out again, and all of our candidates tonight. Appreciate you guys for coming back out. I was serious, Frank, when I said before, it was nice to see you again. Amanda, nice to see you. Regina, always nice. I know the other one was here too. I guess he didn't want to say anything, but he decided to leave. So, but here's another thing that wasn't brought up or nobody brought up around here is 100% of the school board is taxpayers, and we all live in the town. We all have to live in this town in order to be on this school board. So when you guys talk about taxes and everything that's going on in town, we're with you guys. We're not some outside source that's sitting outside of the township looking in and making all these decisions. This affects us too. We have kids in the school, we pay the taxes, we live here. We came here for the same reasons that everyone else came here for. You know who else? Here's something you can look up. I don't know if it's still the same, but you know who else makes about the same base rate as teachers when they start out? Is funeral directors. And I haven't had a raise in 10 years. So has anyone else not had a raise in 10 years? I have terrible health and benefits, but you know what I have? I have a job that I go to that I like. I know I'm not going to make a lot of money over there, but I appreciate what I do. I like going into work. I feel like I am helping people a lot of times. Not always. Some days, like every job, you go home and you go, what am I doing? This is like, there's got to be something else out there. But I can appreciate everybody not getting raises and not getting anything like that, but I'm with you guys too. My wife hasn't worked in a couple years. I don't get any kind of raises. Like I said, terrible benefits, 15-year-old truck that's starting to have problems. I'm with you guys too. So we all appreciate what you're going through. I know you want to come here, everyone wants to come here and you want to yell at us and point at us. We're not that different from you guys. The only difference is we sat on this side of the table for a set period of time, and then we go back on your side of the table again. So I appreciate everybody coming out. Guys, good luck. I hope you get it. I hope whoever gets it really just runs with the job. It's not everything it's cracked up to be. If you guys wanted to sit in on our policy meetings and our committee meetings, you're really going to be bored on what's going on over there. A lot of times we're reading through and we're doing typo work. We're looking for typos and things like this and crossing things out. You know, this doesn't really make sense. It's not some kind of like secret underground society or anything like that. But hey, if they opened up the door to it and you guys wanted to come in, you want to come and sit with policy, you know, whatever, once a month, by all means. Tony, you had them all here tonight. You should nail them down because all your candidates are in the same room. Well, they were. So, all right, that's it for me. Good luck in the elections. See you guys in November.
Would you like to follow that up, Mr. Moreno?
Oh, absolutely. This is the first time I actually get to congratulate the students of the month.
I thought of one more thing.
Yeah.
I did, I really did. It says here, we thank Chief Brandmall for the Forked River Fire Department for coming over to Forked River School. And he's not our chief anymore. It's Chief Scott Nauer. Thanks, Scott, for setting that up for us. I know the book said the wrong chief, so we'll get it one of these years.
Thank you. My turn now? All right. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Hannah, Brandon, Russell, and Riley, students of the month. Great achievement. I'd like to thank Dr. Clark for that not so long, but a little long demonstration. Although our scores have been improving, there's always room for improvement, especially my big pet peeve is the AP exams. I'd like to see a lot better improvement on them, but we're constantly working on it. Thank you, Mr. DeGeorge. Is that your last one, or we got another one coming up?
Part 9 will be...
Not the book, just on the budget, it's a constant. We have committee meetings, we have phone calls during the month. I think I spend more time in school than I do at home in some of these meetings. But it's a constant work in progress. And to Tony, like you said, $10,000 got to come from somewhere, and if we need more, then we got to figure out where it's going to come from. You know, unfortunately, I don't agree with Mr. Bidnick. I think $10,000 right now is worth the investment to try to get our $586,000 back. Negotiations, okay? I appreciate the union coming out the last couple meetings. It's not, it's another work in progress. Listen, Mr. Saletti and myself are on a negotiation committee, and we admit, and we brought it up at the meeting, that teachers in Lacey Township are underpaid. There's no doubt about it, okay? We're looking at the average salaries in Union County, and we're looking at creative ways. Unfortunately, it has to be creative ways. Ocean County, what'd I say?
Union County.
Oh.
It's all right.
I'm a northern person, I'm sorry. But we don't want to give Union County rates. But listen, we're trying to get you guys up to salary where, sustainability, I totally agree. No, we're losing teachers, and the reason we're losing teachers is because of low salaries. There's no doubt about it. No, you're not going to get any flack from the board. But with that being said, I haven't been here for, I was never here for LTEA negotiations, okay? So this isn't because of the last negotiation, it's just an ongoing process from years back, okay? It's not going to get you where you want to be in one contract either. So hopefully both sides come out of this being happy or being not happy. They always say a good negotiation, nobody walks out of negotiation happy. So we're not, like I said, we're working on different things. And it's just an ongoing process. Hopefully it ends soon. So I believe Ms. Pilot, she's not here anymore, but special ed, just like any other student in schools, special ed is dear to most of our hearts. And what's good for one student is good for every student. So the good thing is, Ms. Pilot, she comes, she talks, we listen, and if there is an issue, we make sure it gets resolved. Okay? When they're talking about the chain of command, you know, as she said, she spoke to Mr. Brandish, Mr. Bond, and that's where she should be starting. She's not happy with that, you know, then you move up the line, you know, then you could talk to Dr. Clark or somebody else, you know, and if you're not happy with Dr. Clark, then you bring it to either Linda or somebody from the board, okay? But know what, we do listen. You know, we get emails all the time. We're on the phone all the time about different issues. The HIBs, we discuss HIBs every month, okay, in closed session. That's why we have the report. We're notified about the HIB situations and, you know, whether they were founded or unfounded. So with that, I think I'm going to end it, and it's a long meeting, so I'll give the rest of the board a chance.
By the way, that clock's an hour behind. Yeah. Fantastic. Anybody want to get on my 5 a.m. to?
Sorry, can I just ask one more quick question? I forgot. Dr. Clark, do you know what's going on with the safety committee meetings that you had us a part of, or that Mr. Wigley had us a part of last school year? Are those going to continue?
Do you mean the one that we had at the high school at the
Yeah.
media center? Well, so yeah, I know that that was organized by Mr. Wigley, but if that's something that is of interest, then we certainly can continue them. So,
My turn.
Yes.
Okay, I'd just like to congratulate Students of the Month, Brandon, Hannah, and Russell, our Vocational Student of the Month, and to Riley, the Unsung Hero Award. Also want to congratulate our fourth graders at Forked River School for their artwork this month. I agree with what Nick said about, you know, the test scores are going up, our achievement is going up, but we're always looking to do more and to make those scores go even higher. So it's a work that keeps going on and on. I would like to also report that we did have a curriculum meeting on October 9th. There will be, and I'm inviting all the board members to make sure you know that there's a Veterans Day Assembly at Mill Pond on November 7th, if you can attend. We discussed the National Mathematics Honor Society proposal, and we discussed this presentation that we were having tonight. And then we went into a lot of the policy, some of the same things that policy had. So it was a very long evening, but all three committees kind of went from finance to curriculum to policy, all intermeshed between each other. Want to congratulate or good luck to all the candidates on the election coming up very soon. Good luck to all of you. And one thing I want to make sure too, I always say this every year, is Halloween is coming, so please be cognizant of kids running across the street. I hate that night going out in my car because it's so dark and you never know when the kids are going to run. They get so excited about a piece of candy that they go running. So please be very careful if you're out and about on Halloween night. And please, boys and girls, have a real safe Halloween. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Me? Well, I'm just going to echo some thoughts. First, to congratulate the students of the month. The kids that drew, that's awesome, that picture there. Everyone here that we acknowledge, I just wanted to say congratulations to them. For me, there's an interesting dichotomy that went on in the room today. We have the teachers, we have the teachers union, and we know what they want, and listen, we're working hard, Mike, you know we're working hard, and we're trying to get to some middle ground. And then you have people on the other side that don't want to give up any ground. They're only worried about the tax base, they're worried about their taxes. So now here we are, and we have to sit in a room, and we have to see where the line is drawn. We have to put a line somewhere where these people on the right and these people on the left are okay. And for us, it's not easy. It's not easy. And, you know, 3 years ago when I ran for the board, the first time I ran to support the teachers and try and get them better contracts. And the facts are the facts. You brought the facts to the table. We are one of the lowest paid school districts in Ocean County, and we're trying to fix that. We're trying to do something about that. But there's other people in the room that don't care about that. You know that. They're worried about themselves and the dollars in their pocket. And I understand where they're worried. I understand that. And I understand why you're worried. So now my job is to mediate that. Our job is to mediate that and try and bring everyone together where everybody can be either A, okay, or not okay, but have the feelings the same on both sides. And it's not easy. It's not. It's not easy to see people every day. My daughter goes to school. Her teachers are part of the teachers union, you know? And then I see other people in ShopRite and other places, and they're really worried about their taxes. They're worried about the plant closing. What's the effect the plant closing is going to have on this town? You want to talk about tax abatement. That tax abatement, Regina was right. What happens is a developer with a lot of money who wants to make more money comes to our town and says, hey, what can you do for me? Because I can build this anywhere. I can build this apartment complex anywhere. What can you do for me? And they say, well, we can help you out. You'll make more money the first 10, 20 years. Regina, how long is the abatement for with that district?
It's forever.
I think it's 30 years. So for 30 years, the owner of that complex does not have to pay school taxes. So we cut, I don't know, 50% of the taxes out from under them where we would have got the money. So whatever that value is, the assessed value of that property, we lost out on that. But the town felt that bringing more people into the town would help build business, you know, would bring more people to boost the local economy. And that was a choice that they made. But clearly, we got stuck out in the cold on that one. But that's just a tangent on the tax abatement and the issues that we had to deal with that. And sure, are there going to be families there? They built 3-bedroom apartments there and 2-bedroom apartments. You only need 1 bedroom if there's just 2 of you. But when you have kids, you know what I'm saying? So clearly, I'm sure we have, but understand this. I know that a lot of Forked River residents moved into that. They were here, and they stayed here. They found a nicer place because it's brand new, maybe easier for them to commute to wherever they're going, and they moved from where their home was into that place. But that's aside. I just want to say that it's not easy. It's not easy for us to sit here and look at a sea of red, and I feel horrible that I can't give you everything you want. I do. I feel bad. I feel bad about that. And then I also feel bad that if I were to give you everything that you wanted, it would hurt other people. So here we are. And that's the dichotomy I'm talking about. But Mike, you know we're going to come to an agreement. We know it'll be an agreement. You'll be happy, and we'll be happy with what we gave you. So just to let you know, I know it's been a year. How long have we been negotiating?
Took over a year last
Yeah.
time to settle.
Right. I was hoping this would be out of my hair, because now I'm running for an election, and I've got a sea of red here, all, eyeballing me, like, why can't we have, you understand what I'm saying? But, listen, that's the position I took. I came here, and I believe me, I lose sleep at night about this stuff, because then I'll call George about numbers, or Patrick about numbers, and, we're trying to work things out. What if we, went another little higher, and then it's, hey, where's it coming from? There's a lot of issues, and I'm just rambling now, I'm sorry. But maybe it's because it's 9:45 at night, I don't know. But I'm sorry to ramble. I just want you to know, and listen, Amanda, Frank, Greg, Regina, good luck in the election. You know what? If one of you were to win, I hope you come in with a lot of passion, and we know Regina will. But, you come in, and you do the work. You put the time in. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well said.
I'm going to try to
Oh,
be...
and thank you, Pat and Vanessa. I'm sorry, I had to talk about your presentation. Thank you very much. I'm sure there were a lot of hard work. I'm sure there were.
So, real quick, are we good?
I'm done now. I'm done. I just
You
had to
good?
pull
You
a
good?
Rob. I had to stop.
So between my comments, President Claus's comments, and new business, I have to go home and pack for a 6:30 a.m. flight to Mexico for business tomorrow. So, and I bring that up because we're all volunteers here. And I think it was Jen that came up, and was it Renee? I'm sorry, Rihanna? Mr. Morandi said it in regards to how our teachers are compensated and it being the lowest in the county. We're all cognizant of that. I'm pretty certain growing up the son of a teacher that I know you guys, all of you got into this career not to break the bank and become rich, but because you're passionate about educating kids. And, it's part of the things that I try to convince my kids about is, why we sit up here and do this. And it's a civic duty to give back to the community where you grew up. You talk about pride, tradition, and legacy, and I know speaking for myself and probably for President Claus, that's the reason why we're up here, because we're 46 years living in this town and 45 or 40, very, very close. That's why we do this. So, we listen to you, we hear you. Board Member Saletti talked about a dichotomy, and you have two very diverse groups. You have the teachers who are trying to make ends meet and, earn a decent living, doing a very, very important job. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where people are on fixed income, retirees, that also have a challenge. And he's right, we got to meet somewhere in the middle. Now, I don't have a horse in the race in this election, but the reason why I'm saying this is because I think everybody up here is passionate about our teachers and our kids and putting the best product forward. We know your hearts are in it, so we're hearing you and we're listening to you. I'm not going to ramble on. There's so many other things I want to talk about, but in regards to the tax abatement thing, I think, it's 30 years or whatever, but the town's required to bring in that type of housing, so it's not like this is a surprise. But you bring up a good point. You're dedicated. You go to everything. And I think you have a lot more time than some of us up here. But I think if more people in the community got involved and came out and were present instead of being keyboard warriors and sitting behind a terminal and typing notes online and really showed up and spoke their mind, we'd get a lot more accomplished. In regards to what Ms. Pilot said, I think the chain of command is a very important thing. But I can tell you, me sitting up here as a board member, if you exhaust that chain of command and you have a child in this school district who you feel has a bullying issue that's not being resolved, you can go to Linda, you can go to me, you can go to any other member, you can come to me, because I want to know about it. There's a HIB policy in place. There's electronic software that we use, that we follow a very strict policy on how we mediate these things. And if you feel that you're not getting the attention that you deserve, I want to know about it after you exhaust the chain of command. Because, you know, when you hear stories like that, it's heartbreaking. I'm going to just end it with this. I think for Mr. Horvath and Ms. Buron, when we had conflict last year, I challenged you to come out and run, right? And I'm going to commend you for that. Because you're going to see, if you do get elected, right, it's a lot of work, right? And if you think one person can come in and single stroke of a pen and make a difference, it's kind of not how it works. But I really commend you for stepping up and doing this. I mean, if there's 27,000 residents in this community, and you have, what, 6 candidates, right? I think that says something. So I appreciate you guys, having a horse in the race. I wish you luck. I think Mr. Panza, who was sitting up there, I wish him luck. And of course, I wish my esteemed colleagues luck as well. And I'll end it with that. So thank you.
Just left out Regina. Did I wish Regina?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
come on.
Ms. DeSenza, I did make a comment, but I'm so busy talking about how you show up to everything. That could be a good omen, Good omen. But I wish you luck as well, so thanks for pointing that out, Nick.
All right, I'll do my best to be quick. I'm only going to duplicate 2 of the things. Congratulations to the students. We're always proud to see that. It shows that we've got some great things that do go on here. No matter what some people say, I've been doing a little bit of walking in town, and some people just have some really nasty things to say about our schools, and it's just not right. It's not right. Anyway, contract. I agree with every one of these people here. We all agree together. I mean, it's one thing I can say, Mike, is we will get through it for sure. Everybody says we're working without a contract. You will have one, and we'll all agree in one way or another, I'm sure, at some point. That's for sure. 2 other things though that I kind of want to mention that were brought up tonight. One, somebody brought up about generating revenue for the school district. These guys probably get tired of hearing me say it. That's the one thing that I just keep saying and saying and saying. We can't continue to just keep bumping up the taxes. I mean, it's going to happen. That's taxes. That's the world. But if we can find other ways to subsidize that with generating revenue, that's actually the big goal. We're talking to candidates for a new assistant super, and that's the question I ask for everybody that we talk to. How are you going to come in here and generate revenue for this district? That's going to be a big part of your job. So you can count on the fact that that's something we'll keep talking about, and we'll do our best to make sure we can find ways to do that. The other thing, though, something I'm actually really proud of, I talk about it all the time, and I tell everybody in town about it. OCC. I mean, if you can graduate here with your associates, you only have to pay for half of your college going forward. That's a 50% scholarship almost. It's incredible. Anybody that doesn't take advantage of that, I have no idea why you don't. Personal experience, my son, he only had 1 year of doing it, but he walked out of here with 18 credits. Walked over to Purdue, they took every single one of his credits. He's saving me a boatload by doing that. And the other thing too, people talk about how we don't prepare kids for college, this and that, whatever. You want to get prepared for college? Go take an OCC class. That'll show you how to study for college. That'll teach you how to act like a college student and learn the college way, whether or not it's in one of these notebook things or on a book or however you guys do it. That's probably one of the biggest things we've done for this town, is that we've created a way for kids to go on to college after this at half the cost if they take advantage of the whole thing. So I think that's awesome. But I guess you can tell I'm passionate about that. I think everybody should do it. Anyway, thank you all for coming out. It's always nice when we get a big audience, whether or not people are happy to be here or not. It means that everybody gets to see the things that go on here, so I like it. Keep coming. And now on to the fun stuff. New business, section A, 1 through 26. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Riggs? Yes. Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Mr. Saletti?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes, but I'd like to abstain on list of bills, number 2, item 950450. Also, item 951932, item 520300, and lastly, 953579. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Mr. Claus?
Yes. B, donations.
Move.
Second.
Thank you. Roll.
Mr. Riggs?
Yes, of course, thanks, everybody.
Mr. Morandi?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Saletti?
Yes, thank you very much.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Claus?
Yes, thank you very much. C, programs and curriculum.
Move.
Second.
Roll, please.
Sure. Mr. Riggs? Yes. Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Mr. Saletti?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Mr. Claus?
Yes. D, professional days and workshops. Motion, please.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Riggs? Yes. Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Mr. Saletti?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Mr. Claus?
Yes. And E, certificated personnel 1 through 20. Please.
I'll move.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mr. Riggs? Yes. Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Mr. Saletti?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Mr. Claus?
Yes. F, non-certificated personnel 1 through 7. Please.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Riggs? Yes. Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Mr. Saletti?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Mr. Claus?
Yes. Oh, and do we have any walk-on motions?
As a matter of fact, we have one. It reads as follows: termination of employment of staff member. The motion reads, move that the board, at the recommendation of the superintendent, terminate the employment of staff member number 857166, effective November 16, 2018.
Move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Riggs? Yes. Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Mr. Saletti?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Mr. Claus?
Yes.
That's all I have.
All right, I get a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.